This book contains advanced viewpoints for the multidimensional human being of the 21st century. Shared within are mysteries of self and reality that have not been published on this planet before. As such, it is a jewel. If you treat it with consideration and appreciation, it will treat you with consideration and appreciation. The specific style of teaching or applied philosophy is abbreviated RC, which stands for Reality Creation. Folks, this is an accountant's review of Frederick Dodson's Parallel Universes of Self. Let's dive into it. So Frederick Dodson, if you don't know, is essentially a life coach, right? Or a business coach, or one of those guys who basically shows you how you can change your life into something that you want. And I'm a big fan of this, let's call it what he calls it, reality creation stuff. I'm a big fan of like how these types of authors will just help you kind of break out of your shell, help you think a little differently, help you figure out what you really want to do, with your world and with your life. And Frederick Dodson really has kind of his own take on this, where the book is almost stream of consciousness. I actually sent it to one of my friends who's a life coach, and I sent it to him under the context of like, dude, if this guy can write, how many pages we got in this boy? Almost 500 pages, where he kind of just circles the drain on the same 5 ideas over and over, and it's still somehow insightful, you can too. But that is not to discount what Frederick Dodson does here in this book, because it's really, really important to remember when you're working in like the life coaching or break out of your shell or like learn new ideas space, that, you're just kind of looking to hit that target market for someone who just wants to hear the right thing from the right person at the right time. And this book has a bunch of fun insights, and a lot of it works on this idea of like where you'll meditate very heavily on who you are currently, right? And you want to like project yourself out of yourself and then think very deeply on exactly why you are the way you are and what made you become what you've become. And then you want to imagine the person you want to be and what they would be like and how they would act and how they would wake up in the morning and how they would make their coffee. Ooh, coffee break. And all these other little fun things. But once you do that, then he has you do this fun thing where you kind of switch back and forth. And it's almost like you're doing reps, right? What am I like over here? What am I like over there? What am I like over here? What am I like over there, right? New, awesome, super millionaire, 6-pack abs self, crummy, loser, tiny, chubby, whatever self, right? And you kind of take a look, and take a look, and take a look, and take a look. And he does that in like 50 different ways in this book. And then he'll also have you go through like different habits you don't like and have you write about like different ways that you can think about the things that you don't like about yourself. I say you're an alcoholic, right? I'm a huge loser because I'm an alcoholic. It's ruined my life. I can't get anything done. I don't get out of bed till noon. Other things that alcoholics do. And then on the other side, he'll have you start to like ratchet down that negativity, right? It really hasn't been that great on my life. I wish it could be better, right? And then even a step lower. It's not that big a deal. And as you start to frame things differently and go down this ladder or go back up it for positive things, it really helps to kind of open up your mind to the fact that your perception is everything, right? Like, I think the thing that all of us are aware of in business or just in life is that people who are able to perceive positive from pretty much anything in life are those that are most successful. So I both love and hate this book. I just like, it's so hard to recommend to people with like the dolphins going into like the checkerboard that is also becoming a like a gateway to the nether realms on the front. But because it kind of says the same themes over and over, it's a very fun book to kind of just do this and open up. And right, like we opened up to the page, expansion of awareness. Expanding awareness, consciousness, perception is simply a matter of expanding attentions to a place it hasn't been before or going into the unknown. It's a very basic, real sense. It means to perceive, see, hear, think, notice, discover, learn, feel, taste, smell, sense something that you haven't perceived or noticed or discovered before. And then he goes into a bunch of techniques. Pick out a single object and examine it. Look at the walls in a way that you haven't before. Look around your neighborhood and discover 10 things about it you haven't noticed before. Pick a memory and think about different ways that it's affected you. And it's a great book to do stuff like that when you're just kind of down or you don't feel like you're accomplishing the goals you want to accomplish. It like is a really good pattern interrupt book. And that's where I find it very fun. So I think like for business owners, for people that are really trying to figure out what they want to do with their business, they're struggling a lot to figure out how to grow a business. They're stuck, as I like to say, in the swamp. You know, you're in that $1 to $3 million a year range. You just can't break out. You're too scared to hire the big important person that you need to help you level yourself up. This book can be a great way for you to just start to build those frameworks in your mind. Because I can't tell you how many clients that I've had in the past where they had all of the equipment to make a ton of money. They had all of the equipment to make a ton of profit. And their self-perception and their self-beliefs was really what held them back. So like, I don't know, let's pick a section out of this. How about the miracle of attention, right? And you see, like I flipped to like the same stuff. I just talked about attention. That's no fun. Emotions and reality. We're in chapter 8. Well-being is not the goal. It's the starting point. So, you know, if you're not well, just go to another page, I guess. Your emotions, and he always writes it like this, E-motions, talking about energy. All right. Okay. And our energy in motion. And since everything else in the universe is energy, your emotions interact with the whole universe. So very woo, very like silly like that. You got to be in the right headspace for this type of stuff. And it's very fun if you want to figure out exactly what you can do to change your perception, right? I found that this book is most useful for me like first thing in the morning, right? Where I'll flip it open to kind of a random chapter and I'll whip through the chapter. Maybe I'll do the exercise. Maybe I'll just think about the exercise, you know, and I'll just kind of like let it happen. Frederick Dodson has a YouTube channel. It's kind of good. You know, he does a lot of these little exercises too. Of course, you can hire him as a coach if you want to really learn how to change your reality and do RC, as he calls it, reality creation. Accountant's take on this book. I think for a lot of business owners and a lot of my clients, our goal with the clients that I have is always to grow them to the next level. And the beginning of that is always perception. You have to have a clear vision of exactly where you want to go. You have to know exactly what every single piece is going to look like, or at least a pretty good idea, so that you know what you need to do 8 a.m. on Monday, 10 a.m. on Monday, 11 a.m. on Monday, and so on and so forth. And this book gives you like 50 different ways that you can kind of meditate your way into just starting to build that framework in your head. Because like if you can't even think about it, if you can't wrap your brain around the idea, you're just not going to get there, right? And if you do, it's sheer dumb luck. Like there's just ain't nothing going to happen for you. So I think like if you're looking for a fun break out of your shell book, if you're looking for something funny to get your buddy, right, that might actually end up changing his life, if you're looking for a crummy gift for an in-law, A+. Give her a shot. Once again, like I'm not knocking Frederick Dodson, but it is out there. It is very different from what you might expect an accountant to recommend. But I find that perception's everything, right? Like you can look at your balance sheet and see that you have way more debt than you want. You can decide it's a nightmare. Or you can decide it's a gift because now your back's against the wall and you have to work as hard as you can to get to where you want to be. Same way, you can have $1 million in the bank and feel like you're the poorest person on earth, or it's everything you've ever dreamed of. So change your perception, change your life.